A Prophet of Thought series exclusive. Prophet of Thought. The Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series.
Peace, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Prophet of Thought series right here on the old T.P.O.T YouTube page. I'm your host, X, of course, but you knew that already. That's why you are here. Tonight, got a good show for y'all tonight. Tonight, we are being joined by Mrs. Joyce Fields, author of 10 books. And as you can see from the show title, tonight we are going to be talking about the best way to keep a man. But before we get started, first thing I got to do, I got to thank my donors. Last week's show, I received quite a few donations. My donors, you know who you are. So I know a lot of y'all don't like me to say y'all names, so I don't do it. But I want y'all to know that I'm thankful that you see fit to donate to T.P.O.T. You don't have to spend your hard-earned money on this platform, but you choose to do so. So it is greatly appreciated. But like I always say, y'all know every time y'all send me a donation, I always sit down and write you a personal email, not a computer generated email, thanking every one of you, whether it's 5 of you or 500 of you. I always sit down and write you a personal email. And those of you who donated last week, you know you got that email from me thanking you for your support, your subscription, and your contribution. It is greatly appreciated by T.P.O.T. You know who you are. So let's get right to it. Now, those of us who are on media, we know that there is a lot of talk about men and women and men not being able to get women and women not being able to get men. But we're going to go past that tonight because, like I said, we are joined by Mrs. Joyce Fields, published author, and she happens to be an author of a book that's called The Best Way to Keep a Man is to Let Him Go. So, you ladies might want to listen up tonight. She has been married for 51 years, I believe. So I think she's quite the expert. So you ladies might want to listen up tonight and listen closely. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Mrs. Fields. Hello, Mrs. Fields. How are you tonight? I think she's muted. Unmute your microphone, madam.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm doing fine, and my motto is too blessed to be stressed.
Okay. Well, I did just introduce you, and I gave everybody a little synapses of your book. There's always talk, especially amongst us Black folks here on Black media, and there's somewhat of a gender crisis that we talk about. Those of you who follow the Proper Thought series, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's always somewhat of a gender crisis. The ability, like I said before, the ability of men to have women and the ability of women to have men. But we're going to go past that tonight. We're going to go past the getting of the men. What we're going to do is talk to you tonight. Well, I'm going to have Miss Fields talk about it because she's the expert. She's going to talk about what to do once you have him, if you're fortunate enough to have one, that is. If you have him, how to keep him. So, for you ladies out there, you better be paying attention because you're going to learn something tonight. And for you brothers, you better watch for the signs because the ladies might be picking up on this stuff. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let you have the floor, Mrs. Fields. I guess just give us a synopsis of the book and your theories on how these ladies can keep their men once they have them.
Okay. Now, what I have observed, my husband and I have been together for 61 years, since we were 13 years old. He's 75, I'm 74. Now, based on what I have observed and experienced, 80%, and it's just a rough estimate, of the success of a relationship rests on the shoulders of the woman. The book explains why. Now, the actual title of the book is The Best Way to Keep a Man is to Let Him Go, among other things. When I was 15 years old, my late mother-in-law said those words to me. The best way to keep a man is to let him go. My husband and I got married when we were 23 years old. So I was 15 when she told me that, 23 when we got married, and in my 60s when I actually wrote the book. So what she said to me stayed with me. And I actually added to what she told me. The best way to keep a man is to let him go. And after we got married, I observed that there were other things as well. And so I added the words, among other things, to the title. It's only 64 pages, which includes 20 pages of recipes. So the last chapter in the book is the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So a lot of these girls nowadays and ladies and females don't like to cook, don't want to cook. They don't want to be taken out to dinner every day or whatever. And the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So a man really enjoys a good home cooked meal. So that's one of the things. You got to learn how to cook. And the recipes in this book are very easy to follow. I have desserts, entrees, side dishes, and 20, like I said, 20 some pages of recipes. But one of the worst things that females can do is listen to other females, especially if they don't have a man. And that's one of the things that a lot of females do. They'll listen to other females that do not have a man or who are in really bad relationships. They'll talk about their man like a dog and so on and so forth, and still try to give other females advice. So as one of the chapters in the book is, do not take man advice from a woman who has no man. Long time ago, we were at a friend's house and we were all sitting at the table. And so my husband wanted a glass of water. He was closer to the sink than I was, but he asked me to get him the glass of water. And the female of the house said to him or somebody, she started fussing about, you closer to the fire. So she said, she wanted to start all this crap. So I said, I just got up, got my husband a glass of water, brought it to him, sat down, and and he drank his water, and I sat back down. So one of the things that is really necessary is to have patience and to be tolerant, and also to realize that men do not mature as quickly as women do. We are practically born domesticated. So with the tea parties that we have as little girls and bride dolls and all of that, and then we also have romance novels, and some women still read them. Romance novels. We used to have magazines. I don't know if they still have them nowadays or not, but we used to have magazines that they showed all this romantic stuff, and you have to modify the way that you think. You don't think in romantic terms. You gotta. Here's one of the parts in the book is the introduction. Modify the way you think. It's not realistic to expect make-believe and storybook happiness. There have been bride dolls forever, but until recently, there were no groom dolls. On the wedding day, the bride may be nervous, but she is radiant and confident. She's probably waiting for this day most of her life while playing with her dolls, talking about it with her girlfriends, and fantasizing about it. Now, look at the way that men do. Men don't fantasize about being married and having kids, being husbands and all of that. That is not their world. And so, and also, God put the onus, God or whoever you call the higher power, put the onus on men that they have to give up their lives for women. So you have to show a man that you are worth him giving his life for. So you have to be patient and understanding. And nobody wants to live with somebody who fusses all the time. And it's just not a good thing. So you want to have happiness and peace in your relationship. And like I said, 80% of the success depends on how the woman responds and reacts to whatever the man is going through. You got any questions?
Yes, absolutely. Plenty questions.
Okay.
Now, as a more mature woman, you've been at this for a while. You've been at this. Obviously, you've been able to keep your man for quite some time. We often talk about how the more mature women, who are up there, who have been through things and seen things and lived through things. Actually, we just spoke about it last week. We talk about how these women don't tell the younger women. They don't school the younger women about what to do to get a man, what to do to keep a man, the importance of cooking and femininity and all that kind of stuff. So do you think that, unlike yourself, there are not enough women out there, senior women, older women, spreading this knowledge and passing it down to the younger women? Do you believe that?
Well, based on what I see, that's true. I don't see that a lot of women are trying to educate young girls about, men and how they are. So that's one of the problems. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because these young girls nowadays do not seem to understand the dynamics of keeping a relationship sexy, healthy, happy, peaceful, civil, all of those things.
Well, maybe well, I'm going to ask you this. How did you get your man, or should I say how did he get you, if you don't mind sharing that with us?
Well, I was 13 years old, and it's really weird how I was led to him, and so he had a paper route when the other boys were playing baseball and playing games and all of that stuff. And he was really a sharp dresser, and he always smelled good. Cologne, and he still does. He still has colognes all over the place, so and he still dresses well and all of that. Yes, don't he takes pride in the way he keeps himself up. That's one of the things. So, and I do too. But I think I was led to him at 13 years old. When we were 18, I told him that he wouldn't have to stop doing anything he was doing if he married me. So I just had a profound understanding of the way that I was given that. I didn't just have it. I was given a profound understanding of the way men and women react and respond. And so that's what I put in the book. That's one of the reasons why I say, don't take man advice from a woman that doesn't have a man. Women are nuts if they believe, talk to a woman that doesn't have a man or has a bad relationship with her man. You'll talk to women they'll talk about their men like a dog and then want to give you advice.
So do you think that do you think that what you and your husband have, far as when you guys came into your relationship, would you say 50, 61 years now, right?
Yes,
Do
61 years.
you believe that the way relationships came about and the way men and women dealt with each other, it's changed a lot since then?
Oh, yes, it has.
Changed a lot since then.
Yes.
So do you think that possibly if things went back to the way they were 60 years ago, that things would be different between men and women?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't even know if things could go back to the way they were 50 or 60 years ago. There's a whole different way of thinking nowadays, between men and women. So women nowadays, what the reputation for women nowadays is, all they want is for somebody to get their hair done and get their nails done and this kind of stuff, so that wasn't the case back then.
Well, what was important, because this is intriguing to me. What was important to women back then 60 years ago? What I mean, what besides, you said your husband, he smelled good, he dressed nice and all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
what was really important? You said it wasn't about hair and nails and all that kind of nonsense. So what was important to women as far as men went back then?
Well, what was important back then was a man having a job and bringing his money home and coming home, but he didn't have to stay home. But men used to go out and, uh, you know, with the guys and all of that. So it's probably still that way, but they used to go out and hang out and all of that. But then the women were more or less homemakers. They didn't go out to clubs and all that stuff. So they just were homemakers,
So
making a house a home.
so over the course of time, I know I believe this, and I'll ask you because you've been around longer than I have. Were women were looser, that looser women are looser now.
Oh
Back
yeah,
then, it was more of taboo for a woman to be loose 60 years ago, correct?
yes, it was. Yes, it really was. You know, and my mother used to tell us, and she died in 1977, but she used to say to us, a man can take off his clothes and run around the block butt naked and come back and everybody would still say, "Hey Joe, how you doing?" and all this other stuff, but let a woman do it. Couldn't do it. We talked about like she was a dog and all kinds of stuff. So a lot of this is women nowadays think that they can do the same things that men can do. So, but to a certain extent, they can. You know, some when it comes to jobs, stuff like that. You know, they can do the same kind of job that men can do. Some of them can, but you can't run around the block butt naked and come back and still think they're going to be held in high esteem.
Well, these days and times, and we talk about this, we talk about this often on media. We talk about the gender wars, and we talk about the standoffs between men and women. um Women are a big topic on black male media, which I am a part of, because I'm a black male. We often talk about how women are we talk about how women have affected the black community in a negative way. Because let us be clear, most of our black women nowadays are not married. Most of them do not have husbands. Most of them have children and don't have husbands. I'm sure 60 years ago that also was quite taboo, correct?
Oh yes, Lord. Yeah, you couldn't. I remember one. My next door neighbor. Oh, I was about, I don't know, I was in my teens or late teens. She got pregnant and she got sent off. They used to send the girls away if they got pregnant, and then they came back and they didn't have the baby less necessarily, but then they would say that their mothers or some aunt or somebody's, it was somebody else's baby. That's what they would say back in that day. I remember this one girl who went off and had a baby, and she came back, and nobody knew what happened to her. But all of a sudden, it was this little baby, and then we were told that it was somebody else's baby.
Wow. Yeah, well, it was because like I said, we always talk about this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we say that the reason why it was like that then is because we were more oppressed. We were more under the umbrella of racism and white supremacy. So we didn't have any we didn't have any we didn't have any choice but to be more together, more family oriented. We had to stick together more.
Mm-hmm.
People often talk about the civil rights area and the welfare state and all that kind of stuff. When that stuff got introduced into black society, that's when things kind of went awry. Do you agree with that?
Say it again.
They
What did
say they said that we often say that
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice but to stick together more. We had to be more together. We had to be more family oriented, say 60, 70 years ago, because we were under the umbrella of racism more.
Yeah.
And we also talk about how the civil rights area and the welfare state and all that kind of stuff, when that got introduced into our black society, that it kind of splintered black society, and that broke the family and kind of pushed men on the outskirts. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I do. It did, and that So I think that it was one of Martin Luther King's daughters who said that we have confused integration with what word was it she used? Integration with assimilation with integration. So well, let's see. It's really it's not simple. It's very complicated as far as the way that this has evolved, and our Black folks have gone off and taken into the white culture as far as, wanting to be like white people, but, and then white people want to be like us. So, but one of the things that I wanted to say was, we cannot confuse our society with their society. We have to, it's separate, but it's all the same. You know what I'm saying? We're all human beings. We all have our own cultures and all of that, but we shouldn't be bleaching our skin. One of the things, we shouldn't have to straighten our hair. And I'm so happy to see Black women really recognizing the beauty of their own hair. So I had a perm years ago where you had to, have your hair straightened and all of that. But now I'm wearing a very short afro, but everybody has to come to terms with it on their own time. But we have to give the men time to grow into the relationships that we want. They're not going to do it automatically. And one of the things that I have done is observe older women, women in their 80s, I ain't that far from it now, 80s and 90s. I've always observed older couples. And one of the things that I have observed is that older couples, in most cases, the woman is really running it because the man has learned to trust her judgment, to trust her opinion, to trust her advice and all of that. So she is pretty much running the relationship up to a point. So, and I'm thinking about my own relationship. Now, up to a point, so my husband will let me do pretty much anything now because he trusts my judgment and he trusts my opinion. And he trusts that I'm going to do what's right and best for our relationship, not just for me. So you have to be willing to pay your dues. And so couples who have been together for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years, you still are paying your dues. You're still learning each other. So even at 61 years of being together, we're still learning each other. But it's an adventure. And one of the things that you have to do in your relationship, this is what we have done, is divorce or separation is not an option. You have to commit to that.
So when you when you first got together with your husband, I mean, what were you guys marriage minded, like right from the beginning? Or were you like dating, trying to see if this person was right? Or were you marriage minded right from the beginning?
I was, but he wasn't. I was marriage minded, right? Like I told you, where females are practically born domesticated. Okay, we play house and all of this other stuff, And so I'll give you an example. We weren't married that long. We got married when we went together from 13 to 23. Then we got married at 23. Okay. And so one day he came home, he stayed out all night. I was fit to be tied. So I thought about it and I said, now, if I'm all upset and all of that and mad and cussing and all of this, he'll just turn around and walk right back out the door. So I had to figure out a way to, when he came in, I heard his key in the door. He came in, I hugged him and kissed him and all of that, like I always did. And then I said, you want some breakfast? And he kind of looked at me like, you know, he didn't really understand what was happening. But he said, yeah. And I fixed him his breakfast. And like I said, I was fit to be tied. I was absolutely furious, but I couldn't show my anger. So I learned that lesson. So when we show anger, I have a document on my kitchen wall. It says, talks about how the devil's job is to destroy relationships. And that is what is going on, I think, today. The devil is really, really busy. He is trying to destroy relationships. What happens is you have a disagreement, words are said, and then one thing leads to another, and one word leads to another, and then you'll say things that you really regret saying. So you have to, one or the other person has to move into what this document calls God's grace. One or the other has to do that. So if neither one of you feel like moving into God's grace, then there's not a good chance for your relationship lasting any long time. So you have to be willing, one or the other has to move into God's grace, so that, according to this document, the root of bitterness will not grow. That makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. Well, let me ask you this, because I'm going to ask you some tough questions, Miss Field. I've been taking it easy on you for the first few minutes. I'm going to ask you some tough questions. Let me ask you this. We spoke earlier about the illegitimacy, the quote unquote baby mamas.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that these women who are, because a lot of the women, I don't know what the percentage is, I believe it's about 65%, it may be higher than that, I may be wrong, that many women who have these children without being married, without the fathers around, also have multiple children by multiple men.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you, as someone who has had her man for 60 plus years, why do you think that these women do this? Why do they do this? Why do they allow this to happen to them? And I say happen to them for this reason, because they are the ones being stuck with the children.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, they're allowing this to happen to them. Why do you think that is?
Well, a lot of them don't think that they're going to get pregnant, for one thing. A lot of them don't believe in abortion, for another. I don't believe in it either, but it is the way it is. So nowadays, there's a lot of attention put on sex, a lot more than it used to be. It used to be that what we saw in the movies and on television, when the man and the woman would be sitting at the breakfast table, and then they go into the bedroom, the door would close on the screen. We would not be allowed to see this. And so I think that a lot has to do with so much sex being broadcast now. And people are starting to copy what they see on the screen. So they don't even use their imaginations anymore. When we were coming up, we had to use our imagination. When the door closed, we had to use our imagination as to what they were doing. Nowadays, you don't have to use your imagination. They show it, all of it. And now these people are trying to copy off of what they see on the screen. That's what's going on.
So you said we don't have to use our imagination. Do you think that that's a problem, that we don't use our imagination enough? Because if we were using our imagination more as opposed to acting these things out the way we do, things probably wouldn't be the way they are if we had more imagination. Okay. That's just what my opinion.
Yeah,
But
well, everybody's got this opinion, you know. So like I said, I think that it's because they're showing too much sex, and also the children. It's not good for the kids to see this. You know, these little kids, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, are seeing this. I don't know what that's doing to them. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever.
well, what often happens is, and when you have a generation of people, or should I say a multiple generation of people being raised out of the norm, because I believe that children being raised not having a father, not knowing who their father is, never meeting their father, or having a father that's like never around, I believe that's out of the norm. Okay. And maybe I'm biased with that because I had a father in my life.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of children are being raised out of the norm. So that rearing out of the norm is affecting us. I mean, it's affecting Black
Yeah,
society.
I know, and you know, it's a character assassination. See, this is all about our character, you know. So it's character assassination. That's all part of character.
So, I mean, I don't think there's any real answers
I
to
think so too.
I don't think there's any real answers to this problem per se. The only thing I think, and I talk about this a lot, I say that because I always quote a saying by Frederick Douglass, and Frederick Douglass says it's easier to raise strong children
That
than
to
to
repair
repair
broken
broken
men.
men.
Mhm.
So my focus is usually on the children because
Yes,
a lot of our adults are already lost. So
yes,
I
yes.
think that we should be trying to rear these strong children as opposed to trying to fix these, these broken adults. And you would think that people would be more focused on that. But for what I've seen over the last, say, 10, 20 years, because I'm in my late 40s, what I've seen over the last 10, 20 years is that that's not being, that mantra isn't being picked up. I mean, you're still seeing, I mean, for instance, when you look at the places like Chicago and Detroit and St. Louis
That's where I'm from, Detroit.
Ferguson, you see the despair, you see the poverty, you see the killing, you see the shootings, the murders, the illegitimacy rates, and it's almost as if no one is trying to raise these strong children. I mean, of course, we know no one's trying to fix the broken adults, but it's almost as if you're not seeing anyone trying to raise the strong children because these children are going up and they are the ones doing the killing, doing the shooting, destroying the neighborhood, all this kind of stuff. And we hear the talk about what can be done. We hear the talk of the solutions. We hear the talk of, what we should be doing, but we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it. Okay. I know I'm not seeing it in those places. Now, if it is happening in those places, it's happening on a very, very small scale, which is good because I believe that the solutions to a lot of those crises are going to be individual solutions anyway. I don't believe they're going to be collective solutions. I say this all the time. You're not going to go into Chicago and save 5,000 people at a time. You're going to have to go in there and save 5 people at a time. Okay.
Mhm.
And hope it gets to 5,000. That's what I believe. So what's your take on places like that, such as Chicago and
I
St.
think
Louis and all those places?
I think it's the result of residual consistent racism. So racism has done a lot of damage, not just to Black people, but to all people. Um, but that is what we need to do as a people, as Black people. We need to get a handle on getting our kids in gear, back in gear. I also have written 3 children's books. And so, we're talking about the best way to keep a man is to let him go. But go to goodshortbooks.com to see the books about for children. I've written one called Dear Bully, a collection of poems about bullying. I've written one called The Vision, telling kids that they can make the world a better place. And I also have written one called Jet Black and Her 7 Friends. That's a fairy tale, a multi-ethnic fairy tale. But we have got to reach the children. That is the solution, so it's going to take time. It's almost like trying to turn a huge ship. It takes time to turn it around, but it's our fault that we have allowed this to happen. It's people of color have not, we have bought into this. I don't know. I don't want to blame it on the white man, but we have bought into racism, and so we have got to turn this around. And I don't think that it's too late. So we can do it, but it's going to take a collective effort.
So we often talk about, and I say we because I do it too. We often talk about how women, Black women particularly, have gotten to a point where they say they don't need Black men. I'm not I don't experience that myself because I've been married for 17 years. So but this is what we hear. This is the narrative on media. Right here on YouTube itself. It's the narrative. You hear Black women say they don't need Black men. They don't need men. You also have Black women who pitch running to white men and things of that nature. What do you think's behind that? The whole I don't need a quote unquote Black man. What do you think's behind that? What's the core behind that? Or do they really believe it? Are they just saying it?
Well, we have been programmed to hate Black. We have been programmed, and I don't know if we even realize that we have been programmed to hate ourselves. So to hate Black men is to hate yourself. You're a Black woman. To hate Black men is to hate you, yourself, and Black children. So that makes no sense whatsoever. We need to be trying to, like I always told my son, make love to the person's mind before you make love to their body. So you got to sit down. We need to be having some real heart-to-heart discussions with each other, Black men and Black women. And you cannot get mad. You have to hold your anger in, but we have to have discussions about the condition of our people. That's what I think. We really need to have, because that's what my husband and I do. We have discussions. When we get to, I call it speed bumps. When we get to a point where we're talking about something that neither one of us agreed, I say speed bump, and then we'll sit down and we'll talk about whatever it is that upsets us. So then we can come to a happy medium. And, we can also agree to disagree, but you don't agree to disagree disagreeably. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's often the problem with us. I mean, we often get along fine as long as we're all in agreement.
Yeah, but you can't agree with everything and everybody. Everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I always thought that we would by now. I mean, I thought that by now, there would be a little more headway as far as Black people are concerned.
Racism is so prevalent, it affects everybody. And so when my husband is reading James Baldwin right now. I'm going to read it after he gets through. And James Baldwin talks about racism the way nobody else does. So if we try to identify, so we don't have, we're not paying enough attention to the Black psychologists and psychiatrists and social workers and all of that. We should be paying more attention to them because they have studied and done research on all the stuff that affects our culture and our community. So if we would really pay attention and listen to them, I think that we would be a whole lot better off as a people.
Well, we here on YouTube and media, we have tried, you see a few more conversations between men and women than you have in the past. Women still, what I believe mostly, I believe women can't take and I'm talking about Black women now.
Mhm.
I don't believe that Black women can really take the things that Black men say.
For
Black
instance,
when we talk about the confusion, when we talk about because Black men here nowadays, we're very direct. 10, 20, 30 years ago, we had this thing where there were certain things we couldn't say to a lady, certain things, certain words we couldn't use to a lady, and so on and so forth. It's not like that anymore. I mean, now Black men say what they think. Okay, they say, they put it right out there, and oftentimes that bothers women. Okay, because they often talk about your delivery, you know, and I'm a true believer that your delivery shouldn't matter that much. you know I mean, your delivery shouldn't matter. I think you should be listening more to the message as opposed to the delivery. And I believe a lot of things get lost inside the delivery when you're trying to talk things out with women. Your message gets lost in the delivery because they're so caught up on the delivery that they're not listening to what you're saying per se. I know maybe 61 years ago it probably was more like that, right? Men had to have a particular delivery, correct?
oh, up to a certain point. But see, back 61 years ago, women were not as thin-skinned as they are nowadays. It makes
So
sense. It makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah. See, we were not as thin-skinned. Even to this day, I'm not thin-skinned. I can deal with whatever my husband says. And then I can also see the hidden meaning behind it, or even if it's not a hidden meaning, I can think about what he means when he's saying whatever he's saying. So I'm not thin-skinned, so women are too thin-skinned, nowadays. You have to you have to suck it up sometimes.
I like that. So is that one of the keys to keeping the man around, not be thin skinned? Would that
Oh,
would
heck
that be one
yeah.
of them?
Yes. You can't be thin-skinned with a man, and then I was getting ready to say something else. As far as I can't remember now what it was I was going to say, but at any rate, um, so the thing about the best way to keep a man is to let him go, among other things. Let him go does not mean put him out, leave him, or whatever. That means be secure enough within yourself that you don't worry about where he is when he's not with you. A lot of these girls nowadays, women, ladies, whatever, call him on his phone every 10 minutes or every half an hour or whatever, and want to know where he is and when he's coming back. And you don't do that. Just let him go. If he wants to be with you, he'll come back.
Great, Great stuff. So give me your top five. Give me your top five. I know those two have to be there, but give me your top five of the way to keep a man. Better yet, how about we do this first? Give me your top five, because you're an expert in this. I consider you an expert. You kept your husband. You kept your husband longer than I've been alive. So give me your top five things that you think Black women should be doing to not only possibly keep a man, but to get a man in the first place.
Okay, I'm gonna just read you the chapters, the
Okay.
chapter headings from
Okay.
the book. Modify the way you think. Okay, that's the first chapter. So that was, I talked about how women are intrigued with romance novels, or they're drowning in romance novels and magazines, but there's no equivalent in the male kingdom. So you got to modify the way you think, because men don't know that. Men don't read these romance novels and books. They don't even know what we're expecting from them. Observe and learn your man. Watch him, his behavior, see what turns him on and what turns him off. And this also goes for the men. So I wrote the book, The Best Way to Keep a Man is to Let Him Go. But this also goes for the men should observe and learn their women as well. See what turns her on and what turns her off. Be willing and ready to pay your dues. I talked about that too. So in most long-term relationships where the couple is in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, the man seems content to sit back and relax and let his wife be the assertive one. Why? Probably because in virtually all situations, she has proven that she will say and do the right thing. Okay. Fantasy versus reality. Romance novels and magazines taught us that men are knights in shining armor. We can expect them to be sensitive, romantic, suave, punctual, attentive, patient, unselfish, observant. A passage might go something like this. Mary had spent the whole day preparing for Tom's return from work. His shirts were washed and ironed, the house was clean, and dinner was ready. It was 5:22 when she heard Tom's key in the door. He was always home before 6. She rushed to the door to greet him. When he opened the door, he saw her face and lit up in a big, bright smile. So that's a fantasy. So a lot of women are still hung up into that kind of a fantasy. So the reality is not that. Learn how to fight. There are arguments, and then there are heated discussions or debates. In an argument, usually someone is trying to win. Maybe both people are trying to win. In the process, trying to win words can become dangerous weapons. A person can say mean and ugly things and later be sorry, but it can be too late to be sorry. So that's learn how to fight. Remember that you have faults too. When women get together, if discussion turns to male-female relationship and men's behavior and faults, and it almost always does, I have never heard a woman make any statement relative to the fact that her man has to put up with her faults. From listening to women, you think that females don't have faults. So I'm just reading a little bit of these, little pieces of each of these chapters here. Nothing is too precious for him. A lot of women have a house where a man can't go into certain rooms. They have it all decked out and so he can't go in there. Some queens want homes that look like showcases and designate the living room or dining room or some other room as off limits to the king. He can't sit and enjoy that part of his castle. So, okay. Think before you speak. What is the reaction that you want to get from your man? That's why I thought before I spoke the last time when he went out and stayed out all night. So I thought before I said anything. So in many cases, you thought about it. You can always say or do something later after you've thought about it. Always be a lady. There's an old saying, be a lady in the parlor and a tramp in the bedroom. I'm going to talk about being a lady. I'll leave you to your own imagination about being a tramp in the bedroom. If he has children, accept and treat them as your own. Now, my husband has a 50, he'll be 56 years old next month. He calls me his other mother. I have never used the term stepson with him. I consider him to be my blood son, my biological son. So then let's see here. Don't take man advice from a woman who has no man. Men will freely admit that they do not understand women, but far too many women think that they know all about men. The one who will tell you you need to leave him, and she'll be the first one in line to try to get him. Look good 99% of the time. So if you're shuffling around the house in a shabby robe and scruffy slippers and your hair uncombed, you might want to change that look. Don't use sex as a weapon. This is a big, big one. Over the life of your relationship, your man is going to make you mad plenty of times. The relationship has to blossom to the point where you're emotionally and spiritually comfortable with each other. And know that whatever the problem, you'll work it out together. Anyway, if you withhold sex from him and you're withholding it from yourself too, think about that. So let's see here. No, you don't have any. Okay, and don't have too many headaches either. Because if you do, he's likely to look for someone who doesn't have headaches or who can have a headache and still have sex.
I'm sorry, madam. That was funny.
Don't depend on your man to make you happy. So women want to get a man because they think that the man is going to make them happy. The happiness comes from within. You have to already be happy when you get your man. Pray and laugh together. It's been said that laughter is the best medicine. When we laugh, our bodies are filled with delight. And it's a chemical that goes through your body when you are happy. The way to a man's heart, this is the last chapter. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So I have recipes in here. I've got apple pie, banana pudding, Aunt pound cake. That recipe has been in my family for at least 60 years. Lemon cream pie, pineapple or cherry cream cheese pie, spaghetti meat sauce, lasagna, chili, macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, pepper steak, skillet chicken and rice. That's my favorite. I made that one up. It's really good. Tuna salad, oven fried chicken, beef stew, top of the stove, chuck roast. I cook my chuck roast on the top of the stove, not in the oven. Meatloaf, chicken and dressing, dry beans or peas with smoked turkey, greens or cabbage with smoked turkey, sauteed cabbage with no meat. I love that. And that's the end of the book.
Now I'm going to say something to you ladies. Y'all just got a whole bunch of nuggets dropped on y'all just now. So if you didn't catch them all, you need to go ahead and rewind this tape and listen to it again. Because see, y'all just heard some nuggets just now. Yeah, y'all just heard some nuggets. So y'all better be paying attention. That's right, Lady Linda. Old school principles. Okay. What I think has happened here lately over the past, say, 30, 40, 50 years, the principles that Mrs. Fields laid out earlier about how her and her husband got together and how she was able to keep him, I think that's been lost. Okay. I think that's been lost. Like she says, you need to know how to cook. You need to look good 99% of the time. You need to not be so angry, not be so belligerent, not be so hostile, not be so volatile. All these things that Mrs. Fields is dropping on y'all. You're not going to find these jewels nowhere else except right here on the old T.P.O.T. YouTube page. You know. Mrs. Fields, I think you are a wonderful guest I think you're a wonderful guest, madam. Um, Now, let me ask you a little bit about yourself, and I guess we can come back to the other stuff later. What got you into being an author, a book writer, a novelist? What got you into that? Have you always written books, or?
Well, I wrote my first book in 1997, and that one is called Line of Serenity. It's a memoir. Like I said, my husband and I have been together since we were 13 years old. And so I'm the oldest of seven, and I wrote this book as a tribute to our parents, because there's never been any sibling rivalry in our family, and we all adore each other. When we all get together, now I live in California, they live in Michigan. I have one brother that lives in Massachusetts. And so I wanted to write this book for posterity, for the kids who are coming along in the future to see how we were raised. And so I had written the manuscript and I didn't know what to call it. And so my husband and I were having a conversation in 1997, I think it was September, but at any rate, he said, all of y'all have that line of serenity running through you. So the light bulb came on and I said, that's the title of my book, Line of Serenity. And the first 10 or 15 pages or so is my husband writing about the personalities of all of us. My mother and father, he adored both of them. And my oldest brother died in 2013. He had lung cancer, and that was his best friend, my husband's best friend. And so I wrote the book, Line of Serenity. That was the first one. Then that was in 1997. I didn't write another one until 2003. And that one is called Mother's Dozen, an easy recipe for raising great kids. That one is only 48 pages. Line of Serenity is 167 pages, which includes 20 some pages of the same recipes that are in The Best Way to Keep a Man, as well as 20 some pages of photographs, because I wanted the people that read Line of Serenity, especially in my family, to see what their ancestors look like. You may, give birth to a child that looked just like great Aunt Lou or something like that, So I put pictures in there of us as young kids, and our parents and their siblings and all of that. Then I wrote in 2008, I wrote The Best Way to Keep a Man is to Let Him Go, and it's 64 pages. Then in 2009, I wrote The Vision, 48 pages. Then in 2009, I wrote another book called Jet Black and Her Seven Friends. That one is 28 pages. And then in 2011, I wrote Dear Bully, and it's 52 pages. In 2013, I wrote My Simple Quotes to Live By. I coined my first quote when I was 15 years old. I didn't know that I was coining a quote, but in middle school, when we all graduated from middle school, they asked the graduating students to leave behind some words of encouragement for the students following us. And so I put this quote in, and like I said, I didn't know it was a quote. Never lose your hope and faith. And I have lived by that quote from that day that I was 15 years old till this day when I'm 74. It has taken me through, I'm a 7-year breast cancer survivor and a 7-year stroke survivor. It has taken me through that. And it's 169 quotes that I coined. I put one quote on social media every day to encourage people. And that quote states, "It's better to die chasing a dream never caught than to die never having chased the dream." And so I put that on social media. Then I wrote in 2014, I wrote A Breast Cancer Journey to Greater Joy, taking the fear and mystery out of a breast cancer diagnosis. So anytime people are, and women especially, are diagnosed with breast cancer, I don't want them to be afraid. I wasn't afraid. I just wanted it out of me. I felt like I had been invaded, by a monster or something, So I wrote that book, and I had been blogging about the whole journey. So really my blogs, I just put them together and put the book out. Then the last book that I wrote was in 2015, and that one is called The Limitless Golden Rule, 21 Ways to Use the Golden Rule in Your Life. And if you go to YouTube, you put in Golden Rule Challenge. I put in 7 short videos, no longer than 10 minutes each, about the Golden Rule. I think that if we start to use the Golden Rule, a lot of people never even heard of the Golden Rule and they weren't taught it. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There would be a lot less racism, sexism, homophobia, and all other stuff, the evil stuff in this world, if we start to use the Golden Rule. And I want people to look at the videos that I had put out. And I tell people the 21 different ways, there's 7 videos, and I cover 3 different scenarios in each one, at school, at work, at home, at the park, at the doctor's office, at the library, at the movies, all different places where you can use the Golden Rule. And so that's the, and if you told me in 1997 that I would have written 9 more books, I'd have looked at you like you were crazy. So, but that's the way that God has worked in my life, So, and when I sit down at the computer, and I'm a trained stenographer too, so my typing speed it used to be like about 90 words a minute. Now it's about 65 or 70. So, but my husband still thinks it's fast. So,
Well, let me ask you this. Do you see any hope for many of our women, or do you see things getting better for them as far as better chances of getting married and spending a lifetime with the man like you had? Because I always thought that was the goal, to spend a lifetime with someone. Do you ever see it changing? Because right now we have only about somewhere between 28 and 30% of us who are actually married, which means about 70% of us are not. So do you see that changing?
yeah, if we forgive, but you have to forgive. You have to. You can't do anything about the past. You can't relive it. So all we can do is the present and the future. We can make room for the future. So that's what, and I'm always hopeful. I will never, that quote that I told you about, I will always live by that. I will never lose my hope and my faith. So if we forgive, we can move past all of this ugliness. That's what they did in South Africa. They had the, what is it, reconciliation? Truth and Reconciliation Council. Yeah, so we have to reconcile ourselves to the past, and then to overcome it. But we can't ignore it like it never happened, but we have to move on. But I am forever hopeful.
I agree.
Yeah, I am forever hopeful.
I really enjoyed having you on tonight, madam. I mean, you are a fantastic guest, probably one of the best guests I've had in quite some time. Won't you tell everybody, once again, how to get to your website? Well, her information is going to be, I know you're probably watching this on the playback, everybody, if you're not watching it live right now. But if you look down there, you're going to see all of Mrs. Fields' information, her website, and all that kind of stuff. So you can go there, make sure you support her, buy her books. And you ladies, you definitely better buy that one. That's the one that we titled the show after tonight. You might want to pick that one up. Yeah, you're just a suggestion. You might want to pick that book up.
That one is $9.99.
Look at that. $10 you in there.
They're all $7.99 to $12.99.
Yeah, so go ahead and tell everybody where to go so they can find your literature and stuff, Miss Fields. Even I'm going to put the information. The information is going to be down here, though, folks. So you can go ahead and tell everybody how they can get at you.
goodshortbooks.com. And my email is goodshortbooks@yahoo.com. And if you send me an email, I will respond.
There you go. And I'll make sure that all her information, if you're looking down there now on the playback, the information is down there. Good short books and Mrs. Fields' email. If you have any problem, you just get in contact with me and I'll make sure I forward the message to her so you can go ahead and buy her books. Miss Fields, I want to thank you for taking time out tonight to come speak with us. It is greatly appreciated, madam. Like I said, you're one of the best guests I've had on here.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. I love talking to you too. So it was really good.
Yeah, well, you got to come back. You got to come back. And what I got to get you to do, madam, I got to get you to show your face. I got to get you to kind of move like
Oh,
in the camera. So we
oh,
like
okay.
we like to see our guest here.
Is that
Yeah.
better?
Yeah, we like to see our guest. So yeah, I got to get you to come back, madam. You have all my
You got my email address.
yes. I have all your information and you have mine. So we got to do this again.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming on, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay. Bye.
Bye now. Yeah. So just got off the line with Miss Joyce Fields, award-winning author. And yeah, she dropped some nuggets for y'all ladies tonight, boy. I hope y'all was paying attention, man. I mean, the OG dropped some nuggets for you ladies' minds, because oftentimes, and we've spoke about this before. Oftentimes, man, the older ladies don't be dropping those nuggets on those younger ladies about how to get a man, how to keep a man, how to carry yourself, how to cook, how to look good. You don't hear the older women telling the younger women this stuff. You don't hear it. You definitely don't hear the stuff you heard from Madam Fields tonight. You don't hear it that often. You just don't. I mean, but you hear it here on the old T.P.O.T. YouTube page. This was going to be a short show tonight because, I had spoke to her earlier. She didn't want to be on too long, so I tried to keep it to like an hour, because it's late. And yeah, she didn't want to be on too long, so I didn't want to keep her too long, y'all. But yeah, so I want to thank y'all for coming through tonight. Like I said, some nuggets got dropped, man. I hope y'all was paying attention, and y'all need to go and buy her books. Like I said, the information right down there. Tomorrow, make sure you have your black behinds here, because tomorrow is going to be another good show, all-star cast, just like I had last week. This week, I'm going to have Brother BMT on. I'm also going to have Obsidians coming back. Brother Black Ram will be back. Brother Jay Shine will be back this week. We're also going to have Corey Haywood, the man you love to hate, is going to be back as well. And also, I may have a few surprise guests. Y'all don't know what brothers might be coming through tomorrow. So you're going to have to tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a good one. And we're going to be talking about what a man is made of. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the T.P.O.T. YouTube page. It's going to be a good show tomorrow. I'm going to try to get the info man on if I can. If I can't get him on this week, y'all, I'm gonna try to get him on next week's DXL, because I like this brother, man. This brother kicks good stuff. I'm trying to get him on, y'all. I'm plugging at him. I know y'all know who he is in the chat room right now. I'm gonna try to get him on. Yeah, so y'all know that what we've been doing the last few Thursdays on the DXLs, on the Dark X Lives, I've been bringing in, all-star cast, heavy hitter brothers. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. You're going to see the Kevin Samuels. You're going to see the Obsidians. You're going to see the BMTs. Actually, next week, I'm definitely going to have, I'll tell you some people that already got booked. I got B.I.J. Black in Japan is already booked for next week. And O'Shea Duke Jackson is going to be on DXL next week as well. So you want to stay tuned to these DXLs on Thursday night, because the heavy hit is going to be coming through. And like I said, I'm going to always make sure I have maybe 4 or 5 heavy hitters. I'm going to try to get them coming through. You might luck up and see Info Man on there and a few others. So stay tuned. But definitely have your behind here tomorrow. It's going to be a good show tomorrow, y'all. It's going to be. And like I said, you don't know who might come through. I already got Corey Hayward book, Brother Jay Shine, Brother Obsidian, Brother Black Ram, and also Brother BMT from Black Male Talk. So have your behinds here tomorrow. Also, make sure you get on down to the Proper Thought Series page on Facebook. That's Proper Thought, one word, series. Next word, that's the main page. It's a community page. Go there, follow the page, like the page, share the page. You can even hit me up with a message there. I always answer within a day. That's how I do it. We got close to 1,000 people already. Go ahead. Let's go ahead and make it to 1,000 before a month's in. You're always going to find some good stuff there, and you can catch up with me there and find out what we're doing on T.P.O.T there as well. Also, get on down to the T.P.O.T bandwagon page on Facebook. Now, that's a personal page. You can actually send that page a friend request. Go ahead, send it a friend request. I'll make sure it gets accepted quick. And while you're doing that, go on down to the Proper Thought Series fan group page. That's right, the Proper Thought Series fan group page. Get on down there, request to be a member. You'll get accepted quick. Trust me. There's always some stuff going on down there. It's a fan page. It's the Proper Thought Series fan page. I don't know what's going on with the admins, though. They got this crazy picture up there of like the farmers or something. I gotta check to see what's going on with that. But yeah, I gotta talk to them. They gotta change that picture or something. I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, get on down there, request to be a member. It's like 2,800 people. I can't believe 2,800 of y'all are in my fan group. What's the matter with you people? But I appreciate y'all all. Like I said, get on down there to the Proper Thought Series fan group page, request to be a member. There's always some good stuff going on down there. And like I said, it's a fan page, so you ain't just got to listen to old X talk his shit all the time. There's other people down there talking shit as well, so get on down there. Also, hit us up on WhatsApp and Instagram. That's right, the Proper Thought Series on Instagram. Go ahead, follow us on Instagram. You're guaranteed to get a follow back. Also, get on down there to the T.P.O.T Media Twitter page. We talk about this every week, y'all. Y'all know what's coming. The handle is at T.P.O.T Media on Twitter. That's at T.P.O.T Media on Twitter. Get on down there, follow us on Twitter, or I will haunt you in your dreams for the next 5 years. Also, get on down there to the Proper Thought Series website. It's www.don'teventreit.wikifoundry.com. There's always some good stuff going on down there. And now, we're about to have a new website, y'all. That's also in the works as well. Okay. I just was talking to my people the other night. So a new website is being constructed and built as we speak. So it's coming, and it's coming soon. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be nice. So look out for that too. But in the meantime, get on down there to the old Proper Thought Series website and check out what we got going on down there. And y'all know I always talk about this every week. Y'all probably getting tired of me saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Make sure you get on down there to the Tribute to the Fallen page. That's something that's really important to me. People on there are people who have met an untimely death, whether it be by street violence or police violence. Okay. What I have done is I have put them on something called a Tribute to the Fallen carousel, where they'll always be remembered. So if you know somebody who has met an untimely death, make sure you send me the information, send me their name, send me their photograph, and I'll make sure that they get on the Tribute to the Fallen carousel. It doesn't even have to be somebody that you know. It could be somebody that you saw in the newspaper or somebody that you saw on TV. Just make sure you send me a photograph and their name, and I'll make sure they get on the Tribute to the Fallen carousel so they can have tribute paid to them as long as OX is around. All right. So once again, I want to thank all of y'all for coming out. What's good, Brother Jay Shine? I want to thank all of y'all for coming out tonight and spending some time with us, my moderators in the chat. I know a couple of y'all look up, y'all see that y'all are moderators now, because that's how X does it. He don't say anything, he just does it, you know. And I thank everybody for coming out tonight, spending some time with us, and I thank you for watching. And I also want to thank my guest of honor for coming through tonight, Miss Joyce Fields. And like I said, she dropped some nuggets on you ladies tonight. So you might want to pick up those books. I'm just saying. All right. Anyway, with that, I will leave you with 3 words. Like I always do, open your minds. And we are out of here, y'all.
The Prophet of Thought series.
Peace, folks.
Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series.
Only from T.P.O.T. Media. Open your minds.